Hi, welcome to another Discover Double Bass video, and we have an episode of Ask Geoff and Lauren for you today. I'm joined by the wonderful Lauren Pierce, who is going to be answering your double bass questions along with myself. And I think that we have a question lined up about the Rabbath method. So what's all this about, Lauren?
Yes, I have a question from Michael Herman.
Okay.
And he says, I just read about the Rabbath fingering system in which you divide the bass into 6 anchors. Do you think this system can work for jazz players? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a whole range to go about. We get asked this question about Rabbath, and often people are actually saying Rabbath v Simandl, and kind of putting them in two extreme camps. I think first off, I think the Rabbath system is a really interesting one. It's not one that I use myself, but I think it's got some fantastic attributes to it. The focus on relaxation of the hands and use of arm weight in both right and left hand, I think, is fascinating. I think that the way that the shifting is changed to pivoting, keeping the thumb stationary, is really interesting. It's not something that I do. I'm playing more traditional, kind of Simandl, Petrarchy, these kind of methods that people are more used to. I think my technique is more straightforward in that way. And I think that the Rabbath can really work for a lot of people, and I think it's definitely worth considering. I only really have one thing to add, which I think is really important though, is that if you are exploring different systems of fingering and shifting, be really, really careful that you don't kind of mix the two up and stop thinking about shifts. Whether or not you're pivoting with a hand or actually shifting, you have to be measuring distance each time, and you have to understand the distance. You have to teach your muscle memory, if you like, the distance of a semitone, the distance of a tone on the bass. And when I've had students in the past who've come to me who've been practicing Rabbath, sometimes they haven't really gone all in, and they've kind of mixed the two ideas. Now, if you're a more experienced player, I think you can, of course, take different elements of playing, use 4 fingers rather than 3 if that's something that helps you. But the main thing is it's really results driven. You have to be playing in tune for your music to sound good, regardless of the style. So you have to be consistent in your hand shape. If you're not consistent in your hand shape, you're going to have problems. And if you're not consistent when you shift or you pivot, then you're going to have problems. So I would just say, it's a system that works for a lot of people, and why not explore it? I know people who are real fans of it and use either all of it or elements of it. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's something worth trying, Michael. But I would just be careful that you're doing it in the right way, and that you're not just kind of reaching and switching off a little bit or blurring the ideas. And also I think it depends on what your teacher's doing as well, and what you're studying with your teacher. But there's definitely some amazing stuff, and I think the Rabbath method has been a really exciting thing for the double bass, and there are a lot of people using it or elements of it that are getting great results. So what about you, Lauren? I'd love to know, first of all, do you use the Rabbath technique at all, particularly the pivoting with the thumb in your playing much?
A little bit. I think, well, I was just going to add on to what you were saying about, being consistent, because I think when you get to a certain point in your playing, you sort of borrow things from every single method, and I might be more Simandl than I am Rabbath, or like more Mr. Braditich's method than anything else, but I've borrowed from several different methods. However, when I was first learning, especially when I was a beginner, all the way, I think, through like the end of college, really, I stuck with just whatever my teacher wanted me to do. And I think that's really the key in creating, this bass foundation. No pun intended, but I mean, like your main foundational part of your technique. And I think people try something and then it doesn't quite work for them, or they're not quite sure how to do it, and then they go on to something else, and then they do it again, and they do it again. And then, like you said, they sort of, they combine a bunch of different methods together. And so I think the most important thing is, number one, just do what your teacher tells you to do. Whatever your teacher thinks, they're going to know better than we will. And just stay consistent. Do that method as long as you can. And there are always little tweaks within each method that you can do depending on whatever works best for your body, for your hand shape, whatever. But stick with what your teacher tells you to do. I think really just consistency is key. And then later, once you get to a certain point where you're comfortable with that method, then you can kind of veer off and say, okay, well, actually, I don't like that pivoting thing. I would rather just actually move my thumb or whatever.
You know, and whilst you were saying that, I was thinking it's really similar to people switching between French and German bow. I think that because it's so hard to play either, that you can get kind of distracted by thinking, well, maybe the problem is that I'm not using the right system. And whether you start with Rabbath and then you're then thinking, maybe I should be using Simandl or, Geoff Bradicich's method or whatever, and I think
every method is good, really. Like there's no bad method for bass. It's just that
100%.
They all have their pros and cons. They all have their advantages and their disadvantages, and those are going to change depending on your body, your hand, the way that you move, the way that you carry yourself. And we're not going to be able to tell you that, but I can say that, I mean, really, I've never seen somebody study with a teacher and then get worse. I've never met anybody to follow their teacher 100% and then they got worse as a player, so just stick with the method. It's not going to harm you. Just stick with it and then bring up your concerns to your teacher, and he or she will be able to tell you what you can do that's still within the method to better your playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's great advice to finish on, and I would love to hear what everyone else thinks, particularly if you use the Rabbath method. I know I was talking to Ryan earlier about this, and several people actually, and it would be great to hear, what elements you're using, whether you're doing the whole thing, whether you're doing part of it, and essentially, if you've got any ideas, join us in the conversation, and you can also leave your questions there. So for myself and Lauren, thanks for checking out this video, and we'll see you next time.